Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boars here with the third round of my Mage Knight Lost Legion session report. Again, this was the third game of the first league of the Board Game Geek Mage Knight Lost Legion play-by-forum area, and this was a Dungeon Lords game with a bunch of different variants. There was the Envy and Pity, there was the Mana Seals, which caused quite a bit of a ruckus. And I actually should have mentioned this in the video. I have to thank a kind commenter on YouTube for pointing this out, but we were playing with the random tile orientation variant as well. This is why a lot of the tiles are, improperly positioned and like this mage tower is hanging off of the sky of the world, etc. I actually recommend that variant a lot. I think that it really enhances the game, especially if you've played it many times before. It's pretty much an essential variant in my book, so much so that I even forgot that it was in use. Let's start with a quick recap here. Ending the second night, the leader of the game was Goldix. Now, he wasn't the leader by fame, that was me, Arithia, but I think he was ahead right now. He's in a really great shape. He had 2 red mana. He was really hoping this altar would be a red, this rune would be a red altar, and like 1 in 10 odds it was, which was custom, tailor-made to his position. He had potion making and freezing power, which is a pretty good skill set. He had the magic familiars. He was also in fantastic position, so he was right here. He's got this altar, the mage tower, and then he has his choice of things to do. He could kill the prowlers and go up and explore this way, or if he wanted to, he could go over here, kill the summoners, and hook around this way. This is a very juicy tile in the Dungeon Lord scenario, with the monastery, 2 tombs, and then the spawning grounds. There's a lot of fame to be had. So he was in great shape. He had no wounds either. I was the fame leader, but I had a couple of issues. Namely, I had 4 wounds in my deck. 3 that I had ended the night with, plus 1 more from the Pity and Envy variant as the fame leader. I got an extra wound put into my deck. I did have the scouts and the familiars, so I had 2 good units. And I had decent skills with fire magic, dark fire magic, and healing ritual. But I had a little bit of a positioning issue. So there was this maze here. But other than that, not much. I could go here, but the desert, of course, it was very, very costly, and it was going to be difficult for me to take out a tomb. Mana Bolt gave me a shot, but no guarantee, and it could go disastrously bad. So I was going to have to spend a lot of movement, to do anything. On top of that, we did have the green seal blocking access to level 5, and I was also at reputation -3 compared to Goldix's +1, so it was going to be harder for me to recruit the new golden units that came up in this round, because we had explored some core tiles, or I guess just 1 core tile, this one that I had explored. So anyway, I was in a bit of a tough shape position-wise, although fame and unit and card-wise I was doing okay, because I had gotten, 2 dungeons and a mage tower in the first night. It's just I had taken a lot of wounds due to bad hands and bad monster drawing luck. Wolfhawk had been in contention as one of the top players after day 1, but in night 1 she slipped. She took out this purple rune at tremendous cost to herself, and she made a pretty bad strategic error at the end of the night. In fact, I miscommentated this at the end of my last video. I said that she moved from this hill over to this glade. I just did that because that would have been the right thing to do, but she actually went down to the forest glade, and that was a mistake, because here it puts her in access to getting the keep. And actually, this is not discovered yet. I put her within shot of the keep and this mage tower, but these are things she should have been doing in night 1. In day 2, she should have been moving into the core tile and getting much better rewards. So moving backwards on the map was a strategic mistake here. In my opinion, again, I'm not saying everything I say is totally correct, but that was just my take on the matter. Tovak was the loser after round 1, and he wasn't able to really catch up in night 1. As you can see, looking at the fame track, he was pretty far behind. He was level behind everybody else. He hadn't really done much. He had just taken out a dungeon, and then another dungeon, and that was it. He had just taken out 2 dungeons the whole game. He was sitting on a tomb, and this was a strategic blunder. He should have, in my opinion, moved up and tried to get this wizard tower. The reason for that is, in the end of the last round, we saw that there was a fireball that had just appeared in the offer. Fireball is an amazing spell in this scenario. It can kill dragon summoners and ice dragons. And it's just fantastic in general. I mean, ranged elemental damage is terrific. So we should have all been fighting to take this fireball. And by going over to this tomb, Tovak, well, he really put all his eggs in one basket. Now, you could say, Boris, don't you say you should, the more far behind, the bigger risks you should take? So by going here, he was taking a shot at getting the fireball. I don't know. I think that in this particular case, since he had a pretty decent shot of just taking out this tower and collecting Fireball, going backwards to the tomb would have then given him a much better chance of actually successfully conquering it. And here, I think that trumps the big risk that he was taking. But anyway, that's my opinion. I can see how being really far behind, he was desperate for some heroics, and so he moved back to this tomb. Okay, so the main thing here was getting Fireball. I mean, whoever gets Fireball first scores a major victory. So I had a bit of a problem on my hands because I had to break the 5th seal, paying green mana that I didn't have. And on top of that, I had to spend 6 movement, 2 going into the maze tile, and then 4 going down the spell path of the maze, and then kill the random brown enemy that was there. It's going to be a bit of a tall order actually successfully getting that Fireball before Goldix just, wandered into this tower and took it. So Goldix was the front runner here to collect that Fireball spell because Wolfhawk and Tovak had conveniently stepped out of the way of this wizard tower, which would have given it to them basically for free. Okay, so let's go ahead and do tactic selection. Tovak was behind, and he went for Great Start, which makes a certain kind of sense. So he had a big hand. He was going to try to take out this tomb. Don't worry, that's not anyone sneezing in your house. That's my girlfriend sneezing behind me. Next up was Goldix, despite being, in my opinion, the leader at this point. He was... what am I talking about? He was definitely not the second person to pick tactics. That was Wolfhawk. Wolfhawk was next up to pick tactics. She grabbed Planning to get an extra hand size throughout the round. And now, Goldix made what, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, was the single biggest mistake that anybody made in this whole game. He took Mana Steal and grabbed one of the red dice. Now that is a tempting play, of course, because he's got this red altar. But it turns out, as you'll see, he had mana draw. So what taking Mana Steal did was basically save him 1 red crystal. This basically gave up his ability to get the Fireball spell. So I think a red crystal would have been worth paying in order to ensure that he got Fireball into his hands. And yes, then he would have ended up with no mana, but he would have, been able to try to solve that problem in some other fashion. I don't know. I think that taking Mana Steal was a mistake here because it allowed me to take the right moment. If Goldix had not taken Mana Steal, if he had taken the right moment instead, I would have been in quite the pickle because, again, as you recall, this is blocked, level 5. So I'd have to pay a green mana somehow in order to be able to break this Mana Steal. And then also, spend 6 movement and kill a random brown enemy to collect Fireball. Goldix, using the right moment, could then beat the altar and just then flip the right moment and saunter in here and take Fireball easy peasy. He could also have walked in and taken Fireball first, if mana was an issue, and then seen if he could get some cards, that would help him with his mana situation to beat this altar and step back to it later, paying a few extra resources, of course, backtracking, but this isn't that much backtracking, it's just 2 move, so he could have done it that way. So it's a big boon. It's a huge boon that he made this mistake here, in my opinion, of course. I thought it was a mistake by taking Mana Steal, which allowed me to grab the right moment. This has a huge impact on the game because it allowed me to wait for other people to roll a better source. The source kind of sucked over here, and also maybe pay the green crystal for me so that I wouldn't have to pay green mana that I didn't have. I forgot to mention, Goldix and I, having familiars, needed to pay a crystal to keep them. We both paid a red crystal because even though red is probably the worst color to put on familiars, it was just the one that each of us happened to have 2 of. For me, red mana was very plentiful, so I just needed to keep those dang familiars in my employ, and that was just the crystal I paid. Okay, so that was it. Let's go ahead and arrange our tokens in turn order. Doopity-doop, doopity-doop. And Goldix was up first. So what went down in this round? First, Goldix played Mana Draw, powered by a white die, in order to set the black die red and collect 2 red tokens. Now, if you're wondering why did Goldix do the black die instead of changing one of the other dice, well, this is a useful Mage Knight strategy. If your mana situation sucks, you want a better source, because while a better source helps everybody, it helps you more if your mana situation sucks than if you're flush with crystals. So people with low crystal counts want the source to be better because even though that benefits everybody, it benefits them more. If you are flush with crystals and you have an easy mana situation, let's say you have some mana skills or a bunch of crystals or units that give you mana or whatever, then you want the source to be as crappy as possible. Then instead of changing the black die red, he should have just, kept the red die red. And then kept the source a little bit more closed off for his opponents. He played these 2 red tokens, which I'll just put back over here, plus his stolen red die in order to beat the altar and collect 7 fame in the process. To do this, he did need to clear up the seal for level 5, and he paid a green crystal for that. So by taking mana steal to save a red crystal, he ended up having to lose his green crystal. So really, the mana steal did very, very little for him and gave me a huge opportunity in this game. So it was time to reroll his dice. I'm going to give him his 7 fame, of course, but the white die rolled gold, and then the red die rolled green. So this actually dramatically improved the source after just a single turn. So I was very fortunate for all the rest of us. So that was it for Goldix's turn. This was gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 was his fame. Okay, let's put a shield here on this altar to remind us that he got it. Next up was Wolfhawk. So Wolfhawk started slow. There was a lot of slow playing in this particular game. I don't know if games of Mage Knight are always this slow. She played Crystallize, powered by this newly appeared gold die to collect a green crystal, rounding out her potpourri panorama medley of crystals, and she trashed a wound from being in the glade. I decided while setting things up I wasn't going to always show wounds being trashed. I can just say that happened, and you can trust me. I don't know. Comment if you really need to see those wounds being moved around. But anyway, that was that. The gold die turned green, and that was her turn. Alright, it's lagging, but that's okay. Next up was Tovak. So Tovak was going all in on this tomb. He played Tranquility to draw a card, as I've commented before. I really don't like doing that. I think you should only do this to draw a card if you're desperate, or if there's one card left in your deck and you know exactly what it is and you know that you need it or something like that. Generally, just throwing that card away I don't think is a good thing to do, but he was all in on this tomb. So then he went into the tomb, and inside the tomb he found an ice dragon, which is just the worst thing in the world to find because you can't even let it hit you. So he handled the situation quite elegantly, I have to say. He played Dodge and Weave, powered by a white die to reduce the attack by 4. So he needed either 2 Fire Block or 4 regular block to block the attack. He played 2 Rages to do that, but then he needed 14 attack to kill it, and he obviously didn't have that, so it just went away. In a tomb, if you do not defeat the dragon, then it goes away for good, and you draw a new random dragon the next time you come in. So that was lucky, I guess, that he didn't get something that he could kill. I presume he was holding on to Snowstorm and could have killed a Lava Dragon, Dragon Summoner, or Fire Dragon, but those are pretty small odds, and he was, taking a big chance there, and it didn't pan out for him. So anyway, that was that. He re-rolled the white die green. So all of a sudden, there was no green dice at the beginning of the round. There was all of a sudden all the green dice. And that was it for his turn. So coming up next was me with the right moment. So here was my opening hand. As you can see, I'm sorry, this is definitely not my opening hand. As you can see, this was not the hand that I was hoping for. This has no combat potential, no way to get this maze. I really needed to go to the village, plunder it, and then with my big hand step into the maze, hopefully getting some bigger cards for combat before plunging on in there. So if I had not been able to take the right moment, I would have been in pretty rough shape. I would have had to play concentration on Crystallize to make a green crystal and spend the green crystal to break the seal, and it was going to be ugly. So instead, because I held the right moment, I was able to make a very straightforward play. I just played Stamina to move into the village. After I moved into the village, I played Crystallize, powered by a green die to collect a green crystal. So instead of losing a green crystal, I actually gained one. I discarded Promise because I wasn't going to be interacting here. I was already at my unit limit, and I needed to get combat cards, not influence cards. And then I made a move that I think some people wouldn't make, but I highly recommend you make it. I actually flipped Healing Ritual, and I gave this wound to Goldix that I was holding. Now, obviously, the drawback of doing that is that I lose, a healing point, basically. If I had waited to get another wound, I could have healed 2 of them. But right now, I needed to get that wound out of my hand so I could get a better card into my hand. Giving the wound to Goldix at the beginning of the round is great, because that, maximizes the potential for that wound to harm him throughout the round. And A good option now is better than the best option later. You know, if I wait, I might not draw another wound at all, and then the wound is just taking up space in my hand and preventing me from doing good things. So don't wait too long on your healing skills. Sometimes it's better just to use it right away, even if, you know, with 3 more wounds being in the deck, it would have been nice for me to be able to heal up more than that. The green die rolled gold, and before I rolled the die to end my turn, I flipped the right moment so that I could take another turn right after this one. And my goal now was to go into the maze. So my hand for ending the turn was solid. I got Flame Wall and Mana Bolt. Flame Wall kind of sucks. Mana Bolt is great. Wound obviously sucks. And I got March. So I had a way to almost get into the maze. I figured let's go ahead and plunder the village. So I go down to -5 reputation there. And I see what cards I would get. I got Swiftness and Mana Pull. Now here, I think I made a mistake. I wanted to keep Swiftness and Concentration in case I got like a werewolf or something. That would let me save Mana Bolt and use it on this tomb. Having Mana Bolt dramatically improves your odds of being able to take out a dragon that you find inside of a tomb. Especially with one Ice Dragon already gone, Mana Bolt is just the worst thing in the world against Ice Dragons. Against any other dragon, you can at least, you know, take a bunch of wounds and kill any dragon that you want, basically. So yeah, having Swiftness and Concentration meant that, like, I didn't have to use Mana Bolt to kill a monster. The problem with that is, though, that to get here into the spell path without spending Swiftness required some gymnastics I wasn't particularly thrilled with. I could have used the Scouts to move and then played March, but then I wouldn't be able to peek at the top of the tomb to know what dragon I was facing before diving in there, and I wanted the Scouts for that. I probably could have done that anyway, but what I chose to do instead was I spent the Familiars to move here, which is a huge waste for the Familiars. And then I played March powered by a gold die to wander down the spell path of the maze, taking the Scouts with me. So one thing that this did was that, you know, if I found a Crypt Worm, I could have done Siege Attack 5 with Mana Bolt, and then Scouts for Siege Attack 1 to finish it off, not having to take any wounds. But there was only one Crypt Worm left in the draw. This also left me with Concentration plus Swiftness plus Scouts, which could do ranged attack 6 to kill a Manticore or a Hydra without spending Mana Bolt. And again, then I would save the Mana Bolt for the tomb. But I think that, you know, saving Mana Bolt for maybe using it in the tomb at the expense of spending the Familiars, which sucks to spend them for basically 2 movement, I think that was too high of a price to pay. I should have just spent Swiftness. And my mistake became very clear to me once I drew my monster, and it was a Gargoyle. So I had to use Mana Bolt to kill this thing anyway. I ended up playing Concentration for a blue token. And then I played Mana Pull to use another die from the source. I plucked the white die out of here. So a blue token plus a white die gave me ranged ice attack 6, and this gargoyle died. So let's just clean up a little bit here so you can see the situation and the results of my decisions. So here's what happened. And right now, I could have had the Familiars open and Swiftness played. So I'd have drawn another card from my deck, and I would have had the Familiars ready to go. Instead, I had Swiftness clogging up my hand and Familiars spent, which is just awful. So I really, really messed that up. I spent I got 1, 2, 3, 4 fame, which is nice at least. And I did then get a spell as my reward, so I was able to get the Fireball. And at this point, Goldix made a comment, who understandably was very frustrated. He was definitely trying to get that Fireball. He said something along the lines of, like, oh, Boris, you know, like, all your puzzles are so easy to solve. It's all so easy for you. But I disagree. And at the risk of possibly sounding like the world's biggest asshole, I think that there were like 3 different ways that I could have not ended up with this Fireball. If Goldix had taken the right moment, I wouldn't have had it. If Tovak had chosen to go for this tower, I wouldn't have had it. If Wolfak had chosen to go closer to this tower instead of back here, then I wouldn't have had it. So every single one of my opponents could have stopped me from getting that Fireball. So it wasn't like me being lucky that I got it. That was just my opponent's decisions. Maybe not their mistakes, but their decisions that directly led to me being able to pick up this important spell. Okay, so, asshole rant over. Please don't hate me. That's just what I honestly believe. I re-rolled my dice. Gold became red, and the white became black. So whereas Goldix improved the source with his die rolls, I definitely made it worse. Now we were back to a 2-colored black die source, which is, you know, no good for anyone. And I was up to level 5, so I did have a 6-card hand here. I drew March and Tranquility, which is, something. So we moved back around the horn to Goldix, who was holding on to one of my wounds. Having conquered this, he decided to play Stamina and move into the Mage Tower. He actually took 2 wounds from the Sorcerers and put 2 wounds into his discard pile. And then he just spent the Familiars, managing to actually use up the Familiars' 5 attack with the red crystal. And then with Freezing Power, that was actually enough to kill off the Sorcerers. So a couple of things happened here. Goldix collected 5 fame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He lost a reputation for assaulting the tower. And he got a spell. The new spell was Energy Flow. As chill and meditation are basically trash, Energy Flow is definitely the thing to take. And, being able to reuse the Familiars is pretty solid. Even if he doesn't get to spend anyone else's units, because no one else had units that could be spent, basically, other than, like, my scouts. But he had no green mana anyway. There was green mana in the source, so it was, just a nice threatening spell to pick up, although nothing mind-blowing by any means. He flipped Potion Making to heal the 2 wounds that had gone into his hand, but notice he was still holding onto the wound I had given him from Healing Ritual, so even though that meant I kept an extra wound in my deck, it meant he was drawing 1 less card every turn. What am I doing? And keeping my competitor down was something I was pretty happy to do. Okay, he, after all that, played Crystal Joy, powered by a green die, to get a green crystal. And it's lucky there was no blue mana here, because if there had been, he could have actually discarded the wound to keep Crystal Joy. Instead, he discarded Stamina to keep it. And I think that was a mistake, which might seem like a bold claim, because I don't see his hand. I don't know what else he was holding. But discarding cards to keep Crystal Joy is okay to do, like, in round 1 throughout the round, as he did in this game. But I think later in the game, you really have better things to do than spend a mana to get a crystal. Like in round 3, you've got to be getting way more stuff done than that. So I think, Crystal Joy, you can do the shenanigans maybe if it's the end of the round and you've got nothing better to do, but at the beginning of the round, you got to get this out of your hand, collect your crystal, and just keep on playing better stuff. So I think there was a mistake to dick around with Crystal Joy under these circumstances. Crystal Joy, I'm just going to comment, I think is one of the most complex basic cards in Lost Legion. Well, I think it is the most complex one, because whereas the other cards just give you more options and let you do more, Crystal Joy's options that it gives you are sometimes just like the wrong move, and so you have like a trap now when you play as Goldix. Like you have the potential to do things that are not good for you, as I think was the case here. I think Goldix messed up by discarding Stamina instead of just letting go of Crystal Joy. So Goldix rerolled his green die blue. The dragon was being very generous this round, giving us more options for dice. And he did play Stamina to go into the Mage Tower, so this actually needs to be discarded. He was holding on to Crystal Joy, Energy Flow, Wound, and some other stuff. We'll never know what that was. Up next was Wolfhawk. She did have a bigger hand thanks to planning, but she was still playing it slow. She made a very good move here. She played Mana Draw, powered by her Glade token. And with this, she set the blue die green. She didn't do anything with the green mana. She just basically got rid of this card, Mana Draw, to draw something new. And she deprived us of a blue color from the source. She was the one flushed with crystals, so she wanted the source to be as bad as possible. She then threw away a wound to the Glade and drew a couple more cards. Tovak was up next. Tovak abandoned his hopes of conquering the tomb for the moment. He played Stamina to peek at the green tower, saw the other sorcerers there, and then he played Crystallize. Man, we all had our Crystallizes. Powered by a green die to gain a green crystal. The green die rerolled black. Okay. Bonk and bonk. Boy, I sure hope those are going to the right discard. Quick note, I'm not going to be narrating Tovak's use of I Feel No Pain, but just know that it was being used throughout the round whenever he could use it. Okay, up next was me. So here was my hand. And I made a move here that, well, I don't know. Why don't you pause the video, take a look at the situation, look at where I am, pause the video, and think about what you would have done in this case. Okay, so the move that I made was I actually spent the scouts to peek at the top of the dragon stack. Would you have done this? I'm kind of curious what you think. On the one hand, my odds of being able to kill a dragon were very small. Pretty much all I can kill with Fireball is a Dragon Summoner or a Ice Dragon. There are a total of 14 dragons. We've seen an Ice Dragon, so 3 of the remaining 13 dragons are ones I can kill with my Fireball. That's really, really small odds. With Fireball, though, as long as I don't get a high dragon, a fire dragon, or a lava dragon, I can, like, take a bunch of damage and kill another dragon. So, for example, I could actually kill a storm dragon. I could just take the damage, and then, you know, Flame Wall is 5 attack, and then Fireball's another 5, that's 10. If I spend a black mana, I can make this 8 plus 5 is 13, discard a card, you know, make it 14. So I could hack together enough damage to kill a storm dragon. So there were some dragons that I could kill, you know, some easily, some hard. And I figured if I didn't find a dragon that I could kill, well, okay, I lost the scouts, so I lost 2 move. But if I did see a dragon that I could kill, well, that would be a huge benefit, taking out this tomb, getting a spell, an artifact, and a ton of fame. So I decided that spending 2 move was a small price to pay for a potentially gigantic reward. And the dragon that I saw at the top of the stack was a dragon summoner, which is the best thing it could have possibly been. So I know some people are going to be like, oh my god, Boris, you got so lucky. But again, let me reiterate, I shouldn't have been holding Fireball. Every single one of my opponents could have stopped me from getting Fireball. If I hadn't had Fireball, the dragon summoner wouldn't have been, you know, that much of a prize. I mean, I could have killed him with Flame Wall, but I would have had to, you know, eat 2 brown enemy attacks first, and if one of them was a Medusa, I would have been screwed. I actually would not have gone in to fight him with just a Flame Wall. So I shouldn't have had Fireball, and if I hadn't had Fireball, I wouldn't have had this. So that just goes to show that your opponent's decisions can have a really cascading effect in this game. And conversely, your decisions can have a really cascading effect in ways that you might not realize. I think given, you know, Goldix's complaints during the game, he probably felt like I had just gotten really lucky, but in reality, there were things he could have done to stop me from being able to do what I did. So in any case, seeing that that was there, I played March, powered by a green die for 4 movement and swiftness for 2 more. This gave me enough movement to move into the desert, and I went into the tomb. So to take the dragon out, I flipped Darkfire Magic, which was shockingly helpful here. I used the red crystal and the black token that it gave me in order to play the advanced effect of Fireball, which was Firestorm, collecting a wound but dealing exactly 8 elemental damage, which was enough to kill that summoner. Wow, so that was really huge, and this was where I felt like I turned things around a little bit and had a chance to actually get ahead of Goldix. I think I really got ahead of Goldix there because that was a very huge prize. I got 9 fame, so from 27 plus 9 is 36. And then plus 1 because I did use the scouts. So I got a level up in addition to all the rewards from the tomb. Whew. So, for the tomb, I looked at my artifact options first. I had a choice between the Amulet of Darkness, which is one of the worst artifacts in the game. It just gives you basically any mana that you want. And then Banner of Command, which is spectacular. So this one, you generally want to use it for the advanced effect, which gives you plus 2 fame, and you can recruit any units from the offer for free. Obviously, when the gold units are out, that's spectacular. I had my eye on these Fire Mages, which are very, very strong. We also had blue heroes and catapults, but the Fire Mages are great because they provide mana, elemental attack, and ranged attack, which is really, really strong. So in any case, I decided to take the Banner of Command. We put that back. I then needed to pick a spell. Spells are all pretty crappy here. Mist Form I did not want because I was next to hills. I wanted to go into the hills and play Spawning Grounds, and go into the Spawning Grounds perhaps this turn. I hate this spell so much. It's fine. It's like pathfinding, which is great, except you can move across lakes. So why is there a drawback that makes this pretty much worse than an advanced action? I don't know. I think it's a badly designed card. But anyway, because of the hills and mountains thing, I didn't play this. So meditation is just, I don't know, it just seems total trash. So I took Chill for my spell reward. The new spell that came in was Wings of Wind, which is spectacular, and I would have absolutely taken it if it had been there, so that was unfortunate. But hey, I can't complain about bad luck with what had just happened. I drew my skills. I had a choice between Invocation and Dark Paths. Now, Dark Paths isn't bad, but this was a really easy choice. You definitely want to grab Invocation here because I have tons of wounds to get rid of, and mana is a very, very good thing to have, so I grabbed Invocation. After the combat, I forgot to mention I played Tranquility to heal up one of my wounds. I could have used a green crystal to heal up the other wound, but I decided to gamble on drawing Power of Pain or Invocation. Notice when I was making that choice, I hadn't seen what my level up was yet. That happens at the end of the turn. But I decided to gamble on getting a wound skill, and in any case, I figured that a green crystal was going to be worth more to me than just getting a wound out of my hand. And turns out that was fortunate I chose to do so, because I did get one of my wound skills. So again, Arithia, just really, really great. The advantage of having 3 of your 10 skills be things that let you do stuff with wounds is a non-trivial advantage, and it really had a major impact in this game here, as you can see. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of the cards I had played and clean up. Bop, 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 bop. I got Banner of Command, Chill. Oh, I needed to take an advanced action as well for my level up. I took Mountain Lore, because I was going to move into mountains, and Heroic Tail and Ice Shield are... Well, Heroic Tail's alright, but it's just influence. Ice Shield is utter garbage. I would almost never take this. Mountain Lore is a movement card, and it's perfectly fine. We got Chivalry, which is a very strong attack card, but I was not going to be getting that. So my hand was basically chock filled with rewards, and one more card I drew from my deck, which was Banner of Courage, which is great, so I would get my familiars back. And I rerolled the green die red. Whew, that was quite a turn. So basically, long story short, I took out a tomb. Yay! Let's put my shield there. Oh, I should put my shield there too. Great. So that was it for me. Back around the horn to Goldix. So Goldix played Will Focus, powered by a green crystal, on top of improvisation for 7 influence, discarding March. Actually, excuse me, Will Focus is +3, so 8 influence, discarding March. Notice Goldix also had 1 reputation that gave him 9 influence, which enabled him to have his pick of level 3 units that we had here. And he chose the Fire Mages, which made me sad because I really wanted those. Those are, I think, the best one of the available options. But he took them, which makes sense. Good on him for taking the best ones. He then played Crystal Joy. And unfortunately for him, there was no blue mana here again, so he still couldn't get rid of this wound. But he did what he could. He used a red crystal, or a red die to get a red crystal. And he actually discarded Energy Flow to keep Crystal Joy. I don't know about this move, discarding Energy Flow. On the one hand, he has no green mana, so I get what he's doing there. But on the other hand, really don't think you should be dicking around with Crystal Joy when it's day 2. I think you've got to be doing more important things. In any case, the red die got re-rolled to green, which... You know, if that stuck around, he could have actually been able to maybe play Energy Flow, but we'll never know. So that was that. And his turn was over. Coming up next was Wolfhawk. Was Wolfhawk finally going to do something? The answer is yes. She played March, powered by the recently provided green die. Goldix was just very generous with his mana here. To assault the keep, losing a reputation in the process. She was fighting one of the Lost Legion units, the Green Heroes, and she didn't have anything to say about their attack. She just took 3 wounds like a champ. Then she just needed 4 attack to kill them, which is not too hard to come up with, but she actually didn't seem to have the right hand for it, despite spending 2 turns with planning sitting on a glade. What she did was play Mana Storm with Wolf's Howl to kill them, which is, I guess, bad luck for her, because she had a gold token, and if she had had, like, you know, Rage or something, you know, she could have just killed them with that, but she ended up using her gold token to power up Tranquility. Gold token, by the way, because she began her turn in the glade, to heal up 2 of her 3 wounds here, and that was it for her. So let's go ahead and do the Reckoning here. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Like, just with Deadly Aim, playing a card sideways gave her 3 attack. So she really, like, overused Wolf's Howl here. It was pretty overkill, but I guess she just had a hand that she didn't want to throw cards away, or just didn't have anything good to throw away. In any case, the green die got rolled red, and she collected -2 reputation. 1 for assaulting the keep, and another 1 because if you kill the heroes, you lose a reputation. And she got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fame. That was a good thing about the heroes, is that they're worth 5 fame. Previously, there were no keep units, keep monsters that gave you 5 fame. The maximum you can get was 4. Okay, that was it for Wolfhawk. Tovak here, who had a not-so-great start, was up next, and he took March plus Swiftness and moved into the tower. Like a champ, he took the beating here. He just took 2 wounds to the hand and 2 to the discard, so the sorcerers were just having a field day in this particular round. He then played Concentration, powered by a green crystal. It was unlucky for him that the source was all red, on Instinct to get the kill. Instinct with a red die would have been 4 attack. He could have then played Concentration sideways for 5 attack and saved a green crystal, but I guess he had nothing else to throw away, or his hand was full of wounds. So it sucked for him that he had to lose a green crystal there just to kill these guys. But he did get them. So let's do the Reckoning here. He lost the reputation for assaulting that. He got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fame, almost level up, for getting that taken care of. And then for his reward, he of course chose Wings of Night, which is an amazing, amazing spell. Coming up next was Offering, which is also a good spell. I would have happily taken that if that had been available on my turn when I collected my reward, but you can only get so much fortune in one round, I suppose. So Tovak's hand was something along these lines, and that was it for him. Okay, next up was me. So here was an interesting moment. I actually didn't have anything to spend red mana on. You can only discard a wound to Invocation if you can use the mana right away. It's explicitly worded in the skill to prevent you from just discarding a wound saying, I don't need the mana, I just wanted to get rid of the wound, bitches. But yeah, the rules prohibit that. However, here the scenario parameters that we were playing with actually helped me. I discarded a wound to Invocation to break the level 7 seal. So like this disadvantage thing actually ended up being an advantage. So in round 1, I mentioned that I picked Aretha because I thought she was the best suited for this scenario. I hope that my saying that was not just like some theoretical academic thing. Like at several times in this game we have seen that like her unique cards and unique skills and her unique advantages really made a huge difference, not just for Dungeon Lords but for the variants that we were playing with. So that was nice to be able to get that discarded. Go away. And then I played Banner of Courage Banner of Courage on top of the familiars so that I could reuse them. And I used Banner of Command, trashing it forever, to get the catapults. Here, Wolfhawk complained about me taking the catapults. Wolfhawk said, the catapults are mine. And I said, blame Goldix because he took my fire mages. So the catapults were in my possession. I should give myself actually the next command token, shouldn't I? I like these a lot. Just ranged elemental damage is terrific. They're not as versatile as the fire mages, which is why I generally prefer the fire mages, but they are still solid, and I was pretty happy to pick them up. So I got that. I also should give myself 2 fame for the trouble. Beep. And I played Mountain Lore to move into the hills. I could have played Mountain Lore and a green crystal and a card sideways, because these are crappy cards anyway, to go straight here. And this would have increased my hand limit by 1, and I would have started the turn right on the spawning ground. But I decided to hang on to the green crystal, and instead go here and hang on to my spells as well. So that was a choice I had to make. I'm not sure it was the correct choice, but that's what I went for. So I stopped in the hills, and this did give me an increased hand size. So I actually had a hand size of 7 here, 6 normally for being level 5, plus the extra 1 for being on the hills after playing Mountain Lore, and so this was the hand that I had. Bit awkward, but we'll talk about that later. I didn't manage to spend any of the red dice, so that was that. And next up was Goldix. Okay, so Goldix played Tranquility to finally heal up the wound I had given him at the very, very beginning. And he played Crystal Joy with a red die to get another red crystal, which is obviously not the color that he wanted, but the way that things turned out, I bet he was pretty annoyed that he had taken Mana Steal, because look, 3 red crystals here. Saving 1 with Mana Steal was not really a material thing, and it had a dramatic impact on the game. He then actually discarded Rage to keep Crystal Joy, so he just was really loving this card, this Crystal Joy. Pavel is very attached to that card. I think I would have dropped Crystal Joy the very first time I played it in this round, because again, just Rage could be useful for attacking things, and you've got to do more than just pay mana to get a crystal every round. It's too slow to win you the game, I think, in round 3. That was it, though. The red die turned into a gold one. So Goldix, again, being very generous, setting us up for success. And the next player was Wolfhawk. Okay, so Wolfhawk paused here to actually recruit some units. She played the Diamond Ring to get a white crystal and a white token. And let's go ahead and, whatever. Let's just give her the fame, beep, which levels her up at the end of the turn, of course. Then she played Promise, powered by the white token, and Threaten, powered by the gold die, which was annoying that she spent the gold die on Threaten, because of course there was plenty of red mana, but that was of course the right move to keep the source bad for the rest of us. And this gave her enough influence actually to recruit the blue heroes, their last remaining gold elite unit that was available in the offer. She actually decided now to promptly spend the heroes for 5 influence and +1 reputation to recruit another unit. She got these guardsmen. Now, this was an interesting choice, actually, getting the guardsmen. The guardsmen, of course, are good for attacking and blocking, so how can you go wrong? I would have actually, what am I talking about? Sorry, can't scratch all that. She was in a keep. Guardsmen are the only unit here that was recruitable at the keep. The end. She got them. Okay. Good commentating, Boris. Good commentating. She then played Mind Read, powered by a white crystal, and named Blue, which is how she had stolen my Ice Bolt the previous round. Thankfully, this time I didn't have an Ice Bolt to lose. Tovak to Mind Steal, discarded Stamina. So that went away for Tovak. Goldix for Mind Steal, discarded Determination. And then I discarded my Chill. I had no choice in the matter, but I didn't really mind that much. Had I chosen a different spell from the offer, had I chosen Meditation, I would have actually not had to discard anything. But I still think, you know, it's just random that I didn't have any other blue cards here. So I discarded Chill. This was actually kind of annoying, because I wouldn't have minded having this to play sideways, or as insurance against fighting a really bad enemy. So the Mind Steal did kind of hurt, I gotta say. And because she named the color blue, she did get a blue crystal for doing that. Okay, the gold die that she tried to get away from us actually stayed gold, so that was good at least. And that was it for her turn. Bonk, 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 and bonk. Coming up next was Tovak. So what was Tovak going to do? Well, you know what he was going to do. He played March, powered by gold die, go back to the tomb. He was going to conquer that if it was the last thing that he accomplished. He rolled the gold die white, and that was it. So coming up next was me. I had a difficult decision to make here, and I'm not sure I made the right one. So I have In Need, right? And this. So I can, even without spending any mana, I can get 4 influence just with that. And I've got Improvisation with a red die, discarding Rage. I got 5 influence with that. So this is 4 plus 5 is 9 influence. And I've got this, which gives me another 4 influence. Now, it is true that my reputation sucks. Let's take a quick look at that. I'm at -5. But as you can see, I can actually get up to quite a lot of influence, play out most of my hand, and achieve something at this monastery. I mean, I could have gotten Firebolt, which is a really, really good card, one of the best advanced actions in the game. I had the ability to play it because I was holding on to a wound, so I know that I'd be able to play it after I dove into the monastery and razed it to the ground. So it would have been a pretty reasonable choice to do that. I also have this Banner of Courage on the Familiars and the Catapults. So by going in here and spending all these cards to, you know, do something at the monastery, maybe I could have even healed this wound, I don't know. I could have, like, set myself up to get a nice hand next turn and then go back into the spawning grounds and then take him out. The problem is, the reason I had a big hand here is the fact that I had played Mountain Lore. So, wait, do I have the right size hand here? I should have a, oh no, I had a 7-card hand and I discarded Chill, right. So I would be going in with only a 6-card hand instead of a 6-card hand. But I would have, you know, potentially not, actually I guess, yeah, I had 6 cards here out of a 7-card hand. If I went to the monastery, I would have had a 6-card hand again for move 3 and attack. So that would have been a decent way to spend all my cards, and maybe that would have been the right thing to do. But I decided to go for the spawning grounds. And I think, looking back, that was probably a mistake, because to get there, I didn't have any movement. I flipped the Banner of Courage to ready the Familiars, and I spent them for 3 move. So these Familiars were really unimpressive in this round to get over here. And then I, you know, saved all my combats so that I could be able to beat things up. But I ran some math on the numbers. With these catapults, and them only dealing 5 ranged attack, and these scouts being already spent, not being able to provide that crucial 6th point of siege attack, because the scouts were spent, I could not kill manticores with range, I could not kill hydras with range, and I could not kill cryptworms with range. Now, there was already a hydra and a cryptworm missing, but there was actually, I did some math, and if I did it correctly, there was a 1 in 6 chance that both enemies I found in here would have been 6 armor. And if that had happened, I would have been in pretty rough shape, because I would have had, I mean, I would have killed them, but I would have had to take a bunch of wounds to do it, and my Familiars would have been spent, so I wouldn't have been able to heal myself afterwards. I would have had a lot of wounds in my hand with In Need, perhaps, and then I could have done a lot of healing at the monastery. But remember, my reputation is -5, so it would have been a little bit difficult. And also by going in here now, there's a high risk I would actually have to play Bag of Gold or In Need sideways to be able to do the attacking, to be able to kill off the enemies. So anyway, I might have made a mistake by doing that. Luckily, things didn't turn out too badly. The first monster was a Manticore, so that's not good. That's 6. 6 is bad. We don't like 6. Luckily, the second one was a Minotaur, so that was good. I was able to spend the catapults now with a red die for Siege Fire Attack 5, which killed the Minotaur, and that was taken care of. Now, the Manticore, I didn't particularly fancy taking 2 wounds to my hand and 2 wounds to my discard. Note that the Manticore has that pesky assassinate ability, so you can't just pawn it off onto one of your units. Gotta take it in the face. So here's where I actually used Flame Wall. When does that ever happen? I used my wound to invocation to get a red token. I used the red token to play Flame Wall, and I needed, unfortunately, 1 more block, because this is Fire Block 7 to block the Swift Manticore. I needed to block 8. I discarded Improvisation to get that 8th point of block. Now I had to actually kill the Manticore, and you can see I'm sort of running out of cards here. So I played Rage with my last red crystal for 4 attack, and I did have to end up playing In Need and Bag of Gold sideways to get the kill. Now, you know, I took out a spawning ground. That's a pretty big deal to do, because this is like 9 fame for the monsters, plus I get an artifact and 3 random crystals. You know, it's a good haul, but I did lose the influence cards, so I kind of forewent my chance of ever exploring it, or ever doing any sort of recruiting at that monastery. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the reckoning here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 fame for the Minotaur, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fame for the Manticore, which is good that they weren't both 4, because that did level me up to 7, so I had that beefy 4 armor now. And then I rolled crystals very, very well. I actually rolled 2 gold and 1 red. So I got my red crystal back, and I was able to pick whatever other crystals I wanted, because a gold means a wild card. I decided to choose blue and white, so now I was looking a little bit more like Wolfhawk with this sea of crystals here. I had an artifact to choose next, and my choice, I believe, was a pretty easy one. So I could do Banner of Protection, which I didn't really have the right kind of units for. Catapults have 4 armor, which is okay, but not great. And then the Banner of Protection gives them 5 armor, and then Fire and Ice Resistance, which will help against some things, like, say, Storm Dragons, but not a whole lot. It just seemed like a pretty marginal benefit at this point, as opposed to the Soul Harvester, which gives me attack and mana, which is good, because I could always use more attack, and I could always use more mana. Soul Harvester, I think, is just a really, really good artifact. So I decided to choose that for my artifact reward. Let's go ahead and clean up. This wound was not healed. It was discarded to invocation. Managed to use up exactly everything and still have a card left over to discard to Mind Read, so it was all pretty fortunate. Mountain Lore there was quite the winning card for letting me have an extra card in my hand, which enabled me to then take out the ruin here, or the spawning ground. Okay, the red die, I rerolled black. Black like Arithia's heart. I was rolling nothing but black here. All my units were spent. I had the Soul Harvester, though, and I gotta give myself some fame. I did that. Perfect. I gotta put a shield on here. I did that. Excellent. And then I drew a 6-card hand. So, wasn't bad. Had some good stuff here. So that was it for my turn, though. We were back around the horn to Goldix. One thing I will point out, notice it's taking a while for me to narrate all of my turns. Part of that, a major part of that, is that, like, you can see my entire hand and I know all my thought processes, so of course there's more to say. But part of that is Arithia was, like, just doing more every turn here. Her first turn, if you include the right moment, she took out a maze. Then she took out the tomb. Then she, you know, moved here and played some, you know, banners and stuff, kind of geared up, and then she took out a spawning ground. She's doing something every turn, whereas the other characters here were just kind of standing around and, you know, waiting and spending a lot of time gearing up on things. You really want to try to accomplish something every turn when you're getting into, like, day 3. Maybe it's just, like, you know, acquiring a card at the monastery, or maybe it's acquiring a unit, maybe it's taking out a little threat, but I feel like if you just spend a lot of turns, you know, sitting around, maybe there's nothing else you could have done, so you did the best that you could, but that probably means that earlier in the game, either you got very unlucky or you made a mistake somewhere, because when you're doing well, you should be achieving something every turn, as opposed to generally saving up and gearing up for, like, one big turn. That's just my opinion. So in any case, we moved around to Goldix. Goldix had a pretty good turn here. He played Diplomacy, powered by the white die, plus Learning, which allowed him to buy something, plus his Reputation. Now he used that to recruit the Illusionists under his banner that I had forgotten to give him. Boink. And then he spent the Illusionists and Swiftness Sideways and Crystal Joy to purchase the remaining influence that was needed to purchase something from the advanced action offer. So this is something that Goldix had actually done twice this game. We saw that in an earlier video as well. You can use Learning during interaction to both purchase a unit and then spend any leftover influence, including influence from units you just purchased, to purchase a card. And he got Chivalry here, which is pretty solid. The replacement was Temporal Portal, which is also pretty solid. So that was a pretty decent turn. His white die got re-rolled blue, and all these cards were discarded. Ka-chunk, 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 and also, finally, ka-chunk. Coming up next was Wolfhawk. So it was time for Wolfhawk to take out this tower, and whereas the sorcerers got to bash everybody, the much more humble monks, which are basically the same thing as the sorcerers, but one less fame and just less armor, less attack, they did not have as good of a time here. She played Improvisation plus March, powered by a red die, to get into the tower. Notice that if this had been Tovak's card Instinct, she could have just moved into the tower without having to discard March. So Instinct is a pretty solid little card. Tovak actually used Instinct without having to discard a card to kill the sorcerers. So it's a very kind of simple card, but a very effective one. Anyway, she moved in there. She took -1 reputation for doing so. She then played Determination, powered by one of her innumerable blue crystals, to block the monk's 5 attack. To obtain the 5 armor that she needed to kill them, she played Rage. She spent the Guardsman, that's 4 attack, and because she played Rage plus Deadly Aim, that actually gave her 6 attack. She was able to kill off the monks. So let's go ahead and do the Reckoning. She got 1, 2, 3, 4 fame for the monks. She lost the reputation. She was able to get a spell. And you can just see, I mean, Mist Form and Meditation are just bad. She chose Offering here, which is the only good spell there. And the one that came up was Cure, which isn't bad. It's a heal spell. I haven't actually seen anyone ever pull off the disease part of it, but what's really cool about it is that you draw cards for every wound that you heal, and you ready any unit that spell heals. So it's so much better than Restoration. Restoration heals more, but Cure just has more built-in utility. So it's a Lost Legion spell that's very similar to a spell that's in the base game, and just better. Not strictly better, but just better, which is always a little bit sad to see. But in any case, that was it. The red die that she had used turned white. So the source was staying alive here, although it was suffering under the weight of all my black rolls. And these cards all got discarded. She was still holding on to a wound, though, from before. She had this Offering. This was spent. These guys are gone. Put out a shield. The end. Tovak! You know what it's time for. Going back into the tomb. Tovak found, you guessed it, the other ice dragon, which is just comical. Tovak really needed some good luck, and he didn't get it. However, he handled himself quite gracefully. He played Wings of Night, powered by a mana... Oh, jeez. Yeah, anyway, he had Mana Draw. Let's go ahead and find that. Bonk. He played Mana Draw to be able to use 2 dice from the source. Using a white one and a black one, he powered Wings of Night to stop this ice dragon from attacking him. So Tovak, at great cost to himself, that was a Dodge and Weave, 2 Rages, and a Wings of Night, took both ice dragons out of the game, but didn't actually conquer the tomb, the poor guy. The black die got turned blue, adding some more coldness to the source, and the white die stayed white. So that was it for our Armored Warrior. And we were back around to me. So I was at the cusp here, and I'm gonna have to end up zooming out, I think. Sorry for making this all very small, but we need to actually see what the hell's going on. So I was at the cusp of 2 places to explore. So I decided to play Swiftness to explore first, to the northwest. And I found this, which is not great. Not really all that great. If this had been oriented differently, perhaps it would have been better. But it's expensive to move in here. I don't have any more influence other than threaten, and with my reputation penalty, you can bet your ass boogers that I was not going to be able to hire any good units. In any case, all that was left was the foresters, which are great, but they would have been 10 influence for me, which I just didn't have. So going in here was sucked. The swamp dragon, I mean, I could have my familiars bite it for its attack, and then with soul harvester and battle versatility and stuff, kill it. But it just seemed like a bit of a lost cause to go up here. I figured I might as well wait and see what was over here. So I actually had a slow, after talking about how important it is to have fast turns, I was like, you know what, let's just slow down here. I spent the blue die to actually break the last seal, because I had nothing else to do. So I figured let's just wait for my last card and then explore over here. Hopefully there would still be blue mana for stamina. I could play the stamina powered by a blue die, explore, and maybe move in there. I had no more movement, unfortunately, so I really needed to make the most of what I had, and I figured now was the time to be slow. Now, I could have, used stamina and swiftness to go back to the monastery. But again, it would have been difficult for me to actually do anything there. I could have burned it and fought. A little bit awkward with this hand. Some of the possible fights I could have seen, like if determination wasn't enough to block whatever I saw, I could end up in trouble. If I got something like the illusionists, for example, that would actually be really annoying. I'd have to face a random brown enemy. Determination doesn't block most of them. I might have been, hurt pretty bad. So it would have been a reasonable option with battle versatility and solar harvester. I would have had a decent shot of killing most things I would find, but I just didn't want to take more wounds. I figured it was more important to explore these core tiles. So that was it for me. I just explored, drew my last card, which was a wound. Yay! That would let me power battle versatility, perhaps. And that was it for my turn. The blue die stayed blue. Moving back around to Goldix, what was he up to? Well, he decided that it was time to kill the summoner and hook back around here. Now, again, I don't know what exactly his hand was, but I think that might have been a mistake. I really think it would have been better for him to kill this prowler, go to the hills and explore this over here. Perhaps he was afraid that this was too close to me and I would be able to profit from it, but this is a lot of hooking around that you have to do. I think it would have been better to explore his own tile, but he decided to go over here. So how did he do it? He played Regeneration to trash a wound, and then ready the familiars. He played Steady Tempo, powered by this blue die for 4 movement, and then he moved onto the hill and challenged the summoner. To kill it, he just spent the fire mages, which give ranged fire attack 3 and freezing power. That was enough to kill them, and that was the second time in this round, actually, where he just used a unit plus freezing power to get the kill. Freezing power providing the crucial last point of attack. So freezing power, I think, a very solid skill. 1, 2, 3, 4 fame and a reputation. His skill choice was incredibly easy. It was motivation versus universal power. Universal power, in case you don't know, is like one of the best skills in the whole game. It lets you spend a mana on a card sideways to give +3 to anything, or +4 if the color of the mana you spend matches the color of the card. Even without that +4 option, this would be like one of the best skills in the game. With the +4, it just makes everything you have into a rage, a march, a stamina, or a promise. Like, it's very, very good, and motivation is alright, but it's kind of meh. So that was an easy choice for him. For his card, he chose Temporal Portal, which is actually quite solid here, because if he could get blue mana to power it with, he could jump 2 spaces. Even if he couldn't, he could at least jump 1 space, which is handy because he was coming up on all these deserts. The new card was Blood Rage, which is terrific. You do take a wound to use it, but it gives you tons of attack, and tons of attack is what you need sometimes when you're killing dragons. So Steady Tempo he put on top of his deck. Regeneration, of course, got discarded, and then Temporal Portal he was holding on to. Okay, do I need to reroll a die for him? I sure do. So the blue die that he used turned red. Next up was Wolfhawk. So here, Wolfhawk made a very interesting move. I didn't see this coming. She played Intimidate, powered by the red die. And then she paid a blue crystal to actually purchase a spell. So with Intimidate's influence, huge amount of influence, she was actually able to purchase a spell. She grabbed Mist Form here, which I would never have done in a million years, because I hate this so much. I hate how you can't cross hills. I don't understand why Mist can't, like, go through hills. And it's just so limiting. A lot of what you see in the later game is hills. There's a lot of hills on the core tiles. Mountains, of course, you normally can't cross through, but like why you can't cross through them with this fancy spell, I don't know. She got Tremor in the offer coming up after that, which is not that great of a spell. So she took Mist Form. I gotta give her credit though. This ended up being incredibly good. Especially because she's here, like, she's surrounded by hills. So I would just have never in a million years purchased Mist Form. I gotta give Wolfhawk credit, though. She had a plan for this, and it was a very good one. So this was probably, I'm gonna say, like, the move of the game that impressed me the most, because it was something that turned out to be really good that I would never have done. The red die turned white. And I need to actually finish her turn. She played Offering powered by a red crystal to gain a red crystal. And then she also discarded Rage and Swiftness to get another red crystal and a white crystal. Are you going to appear red crystal? There we go. So Offering is a tremendously good spell. It gives you lots of mana. And the dark version gives you a just ridiculous amount of elemental ranged attack. So it's a really awesome spell. I would have picked it from the offer after conquering this tower. What I wouldn't have known to do is purchase Mist Form, spending an extra turn to purchase Mist Form at like the far corner of the world for an extra turn. Okay, so she did that. We do need to now pop her back to Reputation for spending Intimidate. And yeah, that was it for her. So Tovak was up next. Guess what Tovak did? He went back to the dungeon. I mean, tomb. Back into the tomb. He found here a fire dragon. Finally! Third time's the charm. Promise. Why are you up here, Promise? I don't want you, Promise. Go away. Snowstorm is the card that he played. And he played it with a blue crystal and a black die from the source, which currently he was the only person who was happy with all these black dice, having used them. Actually, no, I used one once, but he used them twice. Siege Ice Attack 8 gave him another wound, and it killed this dragon. Hooray! So Tovak got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fame, and a level up. So his choice of skills was pretty straightforward, I think. Mana Exploit is basically garbage, so he let that go and took Night Sharpshooting, which is awesome. It's very good, of course, in this scenario, because dungeons and tombs are always night, so you're getting the +2 ranged attack a disproportionate amount of the time compared to the +1. Plus, we were about to go into the night round, so that was a great pickup. Anything else would have been a grievous mistake. And he chose for his card Blood Rage, which is very sensible, because again, these things are junk. This is mostly junk, and this is just like festering trash. So Blood Rage is a great card. He grabbed it, and then out popped Maximal Effect. Now, for conquering a tomb, he also needed to collect a spell and an artifact. The spell, of course, he took was Cure, because he had a lot of wounds here, and the other two were, pretty marginal. Mana Claim is a spell that other people use to annoy the hell out of me, but that I think is never worth taking in my situation, so the spell offer was a little bit dry. After that, Scramble for Fireball. None of the spells were particularly impressive other than Offering, which is very, very good indeed. And anyway, this was spent. The the black die got rerolled red, so a little bit more life was brought into the source here. Yoink. And that was that. So that was it for Tovak. I was up next. Here, I was out of cards, so this is all I had left. I played Stamina, powered by the blue die that had miraculously survived, to explore this tile. Well, what I found here was a brick wall in the form of a Storm Dragon. So I had a couple of different options here. I could have, at this point, actually played another card sideways to move onto this hill and get a green crystal. I would have taken a wound for my trouble, but I could have spent a wound to Invocation to play Threaten for Influence, because you're allowed to do that now. Or I could have just... Actually, I wouldn't have needed to do that, because I wasn't going to run out of cards anyway, since my deck was empty. But I could have moved here to get a green crystal, is what I'm trying to say. And then I could have tried to angle on over toward the ruin over here and maybe explore downwards. The thing is, I kind of didn't want to explore this tile for the same reason that Goldix didn't, because I figured Goldix would benefit from it. So what I decided to do instead was actually just stay put. So I don't know if I made the right play, but I like this play. I'm a big fan of it. So the Storm Dragon hit me for just 1 wound. Some people complained about Storm Dragons a lot when Lost Legion came out, like, oh my god, it's impossible to block it, it has so much health. But the thing is that, first of all, if you do block it, it's only got 7 armor. And second of all, it only hits for 4 damage. That's like 2 wounds to a level 1 character. It's pitiable. So you just need a ton of attack and you can kill this thing. I think these dragons are great. I'm almost never sad to see a storm dragon. So to kill it, I actually needed a bit of help because battle versatility, that's 4 attack, 5 attack, 6, 7 attack. 7 plus 3 is 10 attack. So I didn't actually have enough attack to kill that thing without throwing my Soul Harvester away. So that was the choice I made, and I stand by this choice. I would do it again, but I was losing my Soul Harvester forever just to kill a dragon. The reason I thought this was worth it, normally you wouldn't want to like trash an artifact just to get, you know, fame. But if you recall, my reputation situation is a little bit bad. If, however, I kill that dragon, I go from -5 to -2, and then in the next round, I got options. I could like maybe go up to this gypsy camp, or that's politically incorrect, sorry. This refugee village, I always want to call them gypsy camps, with apologies to all of the Romani viewers I have. Refugee camp and recruit a unit, or go back down to the monastery, purchase an action, maybe. I mean, there were things that I could do with that reputation, and I figured that it'd be worth it to have this obstacle out of the way in any case, so that maybe next round I could go over to the wizard tower. I don't know. So, the one thing that kind of sucked here is I didn't find any tombs or dungeons. I don't know if there are any dungeons in the courthouse, but there were no tombs, so I was not going to be in a position to help end the game. I was definitely in the lead by this point, but because I was not in a position to end the game, everybody would then just have plenty of time to catch up, and I would have to, you know, kind of work my butt to make sure I actually, you know, beat all of these achievements. In any case, the Soul Harvester, when you use it for its advanced ability, is attack 8, and then you get a crystal as per the above effect, which in the case of the Storm Dragon just gives me either a white crystal or a blue one, but I decided I wanted a white one. In any case, Soul Harvester, that was 8 attack, and then I used Invocation to discard a wound for battle versatility for 4 attack. I just needed 1 more attack, and I played Determination for it for some reason. I don't know actually why, that doesn't make any difference. But in any case, I killed that thing, so I got 7 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 48 plus 7 is 55. Yep, good math, Boris, good math. That was a -2 reputation there. All these cards were discarded, and I was left with the extremely strong hand of, this is actually deleted, the extremely strong hand of Threaten and Wound. I was going to be a major powerhouse. You know, I could have, with Threaten, and the extra move left over from Stamina, moved here and done all the same stuff, and gotten a green crystal for my troubles, but I figured I wanted to stay close to this monastery. Perhaps that was a judgment error. You know, being here, I would have been closer to this thing, which is decent, and I could have explored down. So I don't know. That might have been a slight misplay, because this Threaten wasn't doing me any good whatsoever. I re-rolled the blue die, gold, so finally Arithia had a change of heart and decided to be nice. But that was gone, and we were on to turn... Oh god, phone, what are you doing? Oh, phone, what are you doing to me? Okay, we were on to turn 7. Back around the horn to Goldix. So Goldix played the... Okay. You know what? There's so few cards left. Let's just draw stuff out. He played the Emerald Ring for a green crystal and a green token, which he had kind of been needing this whole time. Especially like back early on, that would have helped him break the level 5 green seal. Let's give him his fame before we forget, in case it matters. He then played Ambush. Yay! It was the right card, powered by a token. And Steady Tempo. Okay. Let's just rewind. None of that actually happened. What actually happened was the Goldix played March and Steady Tempo. So it was March. Okay. For move. And with that he moved to this hill. Then he played Temporal Portal, powered by this convenient gold die that I left him, to jump to the maze. So I skipped a turn there by accident. Anyway, that's fine. Steady Tempo went to the bottom of his deck. And these two were, of course, discarded. And he drew up a whole bunch of cards because Temporal Portal, and the gold die turned green. Okay, so this is to come. Be excited. Coming up next was Wolfhawk. So, Wolfhawk here made a move that I wouldn't have made. She actually played Tirelessness and Stamina, powered by a crystal, to make it over to this make it over to the monster den. Now, this monster den at the edge of the world is just awful because you can't explore out from it, and monster dens are crappy anyway. But what she was doing was she was putting herself here to be in position to use mist form to explore this tile and hop in there with the mist form. This was pretty important because there was only one core tile left, so if she dilly-dallied and somebody else explored a core tile before her, then she would actually be stuck exploring a green tile here instead of a core tile. So that was a pretty interesting move doing that. And she did decide to actually go into the monster den. She faced a werewolf. I'm not sure how much of a risk she was taking, but she did have Swift Bolt with a white die. Plus Deadly Aim to kill the werewolf for exactly 5 range attack. So Deadly Aim you can see just being terrific. It gave her +2 attack earlier where it was very helpful. And then now it gave her +1 ranged attack, which was really, really helpful as well for killing this werewolf. So she got 5 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, not quite. But she did get 2 crystal rolls. One of them was a white die, so she got a 3rd white crystal. The other roll that she got was black, which gave her 1 more fame, but not quite enough to get to that level up, unfortunately for her. So all that went away. She still has this mist form. The white die rolled blue, so we were doing a good job for once, not rolling black. In fact, we had a color of every, or a source of every color. It's like unheard of. And Tovak was up next. So Tovak played the... Fuck you, Promise! What are you doing here? He played the Book of Wisdom. And he actually trashed Blood Rage, believe it or not, with the Book of Wisdom. So if you haven't known what that is, you can see what it does. So you can basically trash a card and upgrade it from the offer. And he took maximal effect. So generally I don't like to trash advanced actions to get other advanced actions, but I can see why he did what he wanted to do, because now he played maximal effect. He trashed Swiftness for 6 move. That allowed him to sort of get back into position here. He also discarded the Cure, actually, for another point of movement, and that enabled him to pay 7 move to go over to the Swamp Glade and trash one of his wounds. So, it sucks that he trashed Blood Rage, but I can see, like, if that's what he had to do to get over to this Glade and get back up to this core tile that Wolfhawk was probably going to explore for him, then he made the right call there, and that was a very, very strong play. So he trashed a wound, and that was it. So let's go ahead and discard his stuff. Boop, boop, boop. I don't even know if Promise is ever going to happen, but he has a very small hand here, so let's just show it all. And it was up to me. So I had nothing. I called end of round. So note that when you call end of round, you do not get end of turn effects. So I would not have gotten this green crystal on the mine for calling end of round, and it would have been a mistake to discard Threaten to have another turn happen, because there was a chance that by calling end of round, I was preventing some of my opponents from being able to play out all their cards. Alright, Goldix went up next. Here's where he played Emerald Ring to get a green crystal that I think I gave him last time, and a green token. And he played Ambush, powered by the green token, to move down the... Steady Tempo. How did he actually have... Oh, because he was holding... He actually had enough cards. He was actually holding his entire hand at this point. So even though Steady Tempo had been put to the bottom of the deck, he actually drew it. So he did manage to make very good use of Steady Tempo. He played it like 3 times this round. In any case, he played Ambush powered by a green token and Steady Tempo for 6 movement. The spell path had already been cleared by me, but he went down the artifact path, which makes perfect sense. He found a Medusa waiting for him, and that was, of course, very easy for him to kill. That was probably the easiest thing he could have gotten. He played Swiftness with a white die, plus Freezing Power. Look at that clutch Freezing Power action. Without that, I mean, he might have been in trouble. Actually, no, Ambush gave him +2 attack, so never mind. He wasn't in trouble in the slightest. Didn't even need Freezing Power. Anyway, I'm rambling. He got 5 fame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And an artifact. Note that you cannot put Steady Tempo back into your deck if your deck is empty and you're using the basic effect. But if you're using the advanced effect, you can put Steady Tempo back into your deck. So you can theoretically, as long as you're able to provide blue mana for yourself, keep on Steady Tempoing your ass indefinitely. Now, did I give him a fame earlier? Well, I'll fix it before the next video. If I didn't, the white die got rolled red. So that was Goldix's last turn of round 3. Next up was Wolfhawk. She had a lot to do, and she had just enough time to do it in. Here's where she played Concentration to get a blue token, which was very important, because without this, she actually had no blue crystals. She played Mist Form for 4 move and the ability to move across everything for 2 except for hills and mountains, which were uncrossable. She went here, and she knew what the last tile was. It was the blue city. Question was, how would it be oriented? Well, it was oriented this way, but Wolfhawk got, I guess, a little bit lucky. The dragon was not in one of these places. There was a 1 in 3 chance the dragon would have blocked her path. But that's only a 1 in 3 chance, so we can't say she was, like, lucky. She made a very smart call here, because as long as she didn't get boxed in by the hills or the dragon, which was like just like a 1 in 3 chance, with these lakes, the grass, and the forest, Mist Form was very likely to allow her to actually get into the city. So here she actually, in addition to Mist Form, played Swift Reflexes, powered by one of her many white crystals, for 4 movement, finally using the special version of this card. I find generally this is one of the not so good advanced actions in the game, but here she used it for move 4, and then enabled her to actually float across the lake and into the city without provoking this dragon. So Mist Form really just like an MVP for Wolfhawk here. Again, she could have gotten very unlucky and gotten stuck, but as long as she didn't get unlucky, this offered her the best chance to get over here, explore the tile, and put herself into position to do well in the next round. By being in the blue city, it's kind of nice. There's not much to do here, unfortunately, but since it is the Dungeons, Lord scenario, we do have a secret tomb over here, a monastery to buy stuff at and burn. And then being on this tile, the city is considered, conquered in this scenario, and everybody has a shield on it, so she has a +1 hand size while being here. So it was a very clever play for her with this Mist Form to get over here and be able to, take advantage of all of these spoils. Okay, so that was Wolfhawk's last turn. She played my Ice Bolt to get a clutch blue crystal, which just pained me to see. And I guess she actually, I guess she didn't use a die, so did I forget to have Goldix reroll his die? I sure did. White rerolled red. She didn't have any, there was no white mana here for her to use. I don't actually get why she used concentration for a blue token when she could have used a blue die. Oh, I see. She used the blue token on Mist Form to, see what had happened. Maybe she would have attacked the dragon with the die from the source, and she didn't want to commit that. Because of that, she spent a white crystal, which is okay, because she had 3 white crystals anyway. Okay, anyway, that was that. Tovak's turn was up next. This was the last turn of the round. He played Endless Gem Pouch, and this is just ridiculous. He rolled double white on it, so he got 2 crystals of the same color that were the color he already had. That was just shockingly bad luck, and he trashed a wound to the glade that he was sitting in, and that was the end of the round. Okay, so at the end of this round, let's just do a quick recap before we wrap up. If you hear this long, hopefully you'll stick for another 2 minutes, or less than that. Anyway, Goldix began the round in the lead. I would say that he ended the round in 2nd place. I jumped into the lead because all of my opponents decided not to stop me from getting Fireball. Note that Fireball was visible in the spell off for the previous nights, so any of them could have put themselves in position to take it from me, or just take it for themselves, because it's a good spell to have, and none of them did. So I think that was kind of a big mistake by everyone. Goldix taking Mana Steal was a huge mistake. He still could have stopped me from getting Fireball and taken it himself if he had chosen the right moment instead of Mana Steal. But because of that, I was able to take the maze, get the Fireball, take out the tomb, take the spawning ground, and explore a bunch of tiles and kill a dragon to boot. So I got a ton of rewards, maze, tomb, and spawning ground, and a dragon. Lots of fame, and I was definitely in the lead at this point. Goldix was 2nd because he was the leader going into the round, and he had a fine round. I think he spent too much time dicking around with Crystal Joy, but he did at least take out a wizard tower, take out an altar, take out a summoner, and clean out an artifact from the maze. His positioning kind of sucks here because he can go down here and explore a countryside tile now, but there's not much else for him to do in his immediate vicinity, unfortunately. There's no tombs to get, so the objective of this particular scenario is kind of lost on him. Wolfhawk is in 3rd place. She's in decent shape. That Mist Form was a brilliant play. She's got a dragon, a monastery, and a tomb Malta herself, and Tovak, can't get in here, really. So she's in really good shape, and Tovak, in addition to being the loser going into this round, he had some shockingly bad luck. He had to spend 2 turns clearing out ice dragons, but he was able to get this tomb, so let's give him credit where credit's due, and take out the ice dragons for the rest of us. Okay, so that was it for this round. I want to keep going. I wish I could do the 4th round right now, but that'll have to wait for the next video. Please like and/or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody.